The new chapter-approved mission deck is here, and with it comes some of the most dramatic changes and shake-ups to the way we play Warhammer 40,000. I am James Jordan, aka The Bard, and today I am joined by Lawrence Baker, the Spider,
Hello.
and Chaos Lord Beard.
Wallop.
Wallop?
Yeah.
Go pointing. Wallop.
That's
Wow.
That's what happened.
That's what happened?
Yeah, when these new mission deck arrived. Wallop, right in the bits and pieces.
Look, I'm very excited about this chapter approved because I feel, for me personally, I feel like we've had Pariah Nexus what feels like a very long time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think this is some of the most dramatic changes to how we play 40k that I've seen in quite a long time.
It's
Certainly added a twist or two.
Hey, look at what you did there.
Very good.
Look at that.
Yeah, I was feeling a little bit. I mean, we play a lot of 40k.
We do.
Obviously.
Yes.
I was feeling a little bit bored of Pariah Nexus, to be completely honest. This isn't like a complete overhaul, turn it upside down and give it a shake. They've added some particularly potent seasoning.
Yes.
I think gave you some dipping sauce.
And what I really like about it is it feels like they've kept, if you really enjoyed what we had before, a lot of it's pretty much still there.
Yeah.
But if you're like, you know, like you say, turn me upside down and give me a good shake, that is an option if you want it. Yeah. So before we get into some of the more dramatic changes, shall we say, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping because there are some core changes to the mission setup, which are quite interesting. This seems to happen every time there's a mission pack. There's the little pamphlet at the front, which does kind of change up, you know, the declared battle formations, how armies are sort of laid out, and the sort of core principles that then dictate the ways to play. So the first thing within that is there's 3 ways of playing now.
Yeah.
There's explicitly now an incursion-sized game mode, which is very interesting because now
1,000 points. Basically.
So 1,000, instead of it being sort of you can play these at a different. There's an actual designed way of playing that game mode.
Yeah.
There is then, of course, Strike Force, which is pretty much all the same. And then there's a new asymmetric mission type, which we're going to cover that later in a bit more detail. But for me, I think is one of the most exciting things in this book.
I think removing the larger games is fine.
It's fine, yeah.
Keeping incursion is interesting.
I like that in a way, almost like a pickup game maybe.
But the asymmetric, that's the tang. That's the spicy meat that we've been waiting for.
That's that truffle alioli in your burger. It's very nice. We then have another thing that, again, we'll come back to, I think, but mission rules are now twists. Right. And this is potentially a controversial point, and we'll cover them in greater detail in a moment, but as of recording, we have yet to receive the tournament companion, and that is yet to land, which, given the nature of some of these, they may or may not be limited, they may all be included. What guys they take in amongst tournament play will be very interesting to see.
I mean, in theory, as of the day of this release, they might even release the tournament.
Exactly, yeah. You guys might already know. I think
it'd be hilarious. You'll be watching it going, "You clowns, you got it wrong." But we don't know. It's going to be interesting either way because our discussion point will be relevant because. Depending on which way they go, I don't want to go in here, but they're going to be real interesting.
Yeah, because I think even amongst us, the team here, it's kind of a controversial. Like we have very differing opinions on how we feel about these twists.
Also, I run events.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, so like we do run tournaments, we run events.
Yes.
This will affect what we do.
So whether or not they stay like mission rules currently exist in Pariah Nexus or not is to be seen. Yeah. But they effectively have replaced that element of the mission pack.
Right.
Tactical secondaries are still here, but now when you discard them, you can discard them in either player's turn, but you only get a CP when it's your turn. Deployment's exactly the same, except for asymmetric missions. The attacker deploys entirely, and then the defender deploys entirely.
I like that you can discard your secondaries in your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because there's a few times in the past where I've been like, I'm just going to hang on to it till my next turn. It might be okay. But you often get a really good understanding whether or not you're actually going to do it in the subsequent turn, which is your opponent's.
Yeah, and then if you're stuck with that card, you're like,
suck. Because sometimes I don't need the CP, I just want a fresh draw.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually want to try. And also you've attempted to do something, if it's assassinated, then they fall back, you're like, that was a waste of time. Yeah. That's really nice. And also you don't get then super rewarded for it because you just can discard and get a fresh draw, but you don't get the CP. Right. A nice little sort of tweak. Very nice. In terms of deployment, turn 1, if you get the roll off, you must still take the first turn, and in asymmetric, the attacker must take the first turn.
Yes.
Again, we'll come back to asymmetric. It's all a bit kooky and strange.
Yeah, that's different.
It's very different. So actions now can be done by OC 0 units if there is at least one OC +1 model in the unit, e.g. a character. If then you are doing an action, you cannot shoot or charge until it's completed at the end of the turns. You can't do a heroic intervention or an overwatch, which was kind of something you could kind of get away with even when you were doing an action before. Yep. So that's been tightened up. And battle line can advance, shoot, and do actions in incursion. So I guess that makes sense when you have a smaller game mode, you have less units. You can
you're not going to get bogged down doing
which is nice. They've thought about incursion as its own mode.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
Now, there's also a whole new mechanic, and that is challenger cards.
Yeah.
So I think we'll start there with the challenger cards. Get something
start
new.
with the challengers?
Let's go. Let's do some challenging cards.
Here comes a new challenger.
There's a whole new element to the game, and then we'll go through what's changed in terms of the primary missions and stuff for Strike Force, and then we'll do asymmetric. Yep. So challengers now are, if you are 6 victory points behind.
Yes.
You can then, you have a pack between you as players that you can draw from blind.
Yeah, it's one pool.
One pool.
Yeah.
So you can't be cheeky and kind of build around it.
No.
Which was my concern when I first looked through this. But effectively, let's say I draw this here.
Pick a card. Pick any card.
I've picked a random card. It's called Pivotal Moment.
Okay.
So this is then, effectively you get a kind of a free use stratagem,
Yep.
and also then a kind of a free use challenger mission,
Yeah.
which is like a bonus way of scoring a secondary, which
So
is quite interesting.
you have to use one of them. You can't use both.
You can't use both.
Yeah.
So you basically, it's a nice way of giving you a leg up of, do you want to go for the kill, try and hurt your opponent, or do you desperately need some points? So for example, this one I've drawn, in your movement phase, 1 unit from your army, until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back.
Right.
Which is really quite nice, right?
Yeah.
And then also on this card was then at the end of my turn, if 1 or more enemy units were destroyed this turn, you get 3 victory points.
Right.
So it's quite a nice little mechanic, and they're all of a kind of a similar theme.
Well, every single one of the challenger missions, the maximum you can score is 3. Sometimes you get a full 3.
Yep.
Sometimes you score 1, 2, or 3.
Yes.
Depending on what it is. They are all generally quite easy to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that this is the intention here is to build, to get the deficit, to try and make the game as close as possible. I mean, this one, for example, you've got the stratagems burst of speed, end of the shooting phase, 1 unit for your army, excluding units that made a move this phase.
Yep.
Your unit can make a normal move of up to d6 inches, and then cannot move again this phase.
Yes.
But you can suddenly do a move in the shooting phase. Quite cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Or the mission is focused efforts. Models in 2 or more units from your army made 1 or more attacks against the same enemy unit this turn, and models in that enemy unit lost 1 or more wounds as a result of those attacks. You get 3 victory points. So basically, you have 2 units.
Easy stuff to
have 2 units attack 1 unit. As long as that unit lost any wounds, you get 3 victory points.
There's any wounds, not models.
Yeah, just wounds. Result of it lost 1 or more wounds. So doesn't even need to remove a model. They are very easy to achieve, which I think is kind of the whole point, right?
Yes, and I think we have played a game with this mission pack of filming, and what I thought was interesting, the game we played was really close. The points were really close. What was nice about it is the 6 victory point gap.
Yeah.
If a game is that close, it's not like then whoever drops down has an easy leg up.
Right.
Because my understanding is this can be scored in addition to your secondaries as well. Is my understanding?
Yeah,
it's like an extra mission.
But it can never go to be more than 45 in your secondary, or 45 in your primary, or 40.
Yes.
You know what I mean.
What I like about it, though, is someone that often gets forsaken by the river of secondary cards.
Yeah.
I think I prefer it to what we had before, which was your secret missions, which were suddenly you could just win the game if you got a good secret mission you could set up for it. It's a nice way of, I feel everyone can benefit if you're getting absolutely hammered and you're falling really far behind. You've got a way of kind of closing the gap.
That's right.
Which I do quite like because it keeps games tight and exciting.
Yeah, no, it's good. Look, if you are up against it and you're starting to lag behind, because let's say that you're 12 points behind, you probably for a couple of turns there, you might be able to just draw challenger cards and bridge that gap by potentially 6 points.
Exactly.
Obviously some challenges are a little easier than others because some it is one of them's get 1 point for each objective that you're holding.
Yes.
Okay, for example. But yes, just to reiterate, primary mission you can score 50, secondary you can score 40. Challenger cards, you can score a maximum of 12.
Yep.
But that's because you'd only technically be able to start scoring them from turn 2
anyway.
So that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But yes, the 12 victory points, it's the cap can, I suppose, go, well, that's actually a really good point. Where does the cap go?
Oh, yeah.
I suppose
Yes, you can only score it if you're 6 points behind. So in theory,
you haven't maxed out on your primary or secondary.
If you get enough to bring yourself, if you were both scoring 45 at the end, you wouldn't be possible to overdo the cap because you wouldn't have been able to actually.
That's right. Yeah. So the 12 in theory can make up the primary or the secondary. Yes. It's its own kind of weird thing.
I really like it as a mechanic.
Yeah.
I think it's quite clever. What I was really glad about is that. Because I think they did sort of a Walker mark on, they showed one of them a while ago, and I was really worried that like, you could be really cheeky and sort of build around it. Being like,
you could pick them or something.
So, I'm going to let myself fall behind in points and give my unit reroll hits and wounds or something. It's like, that seems like too much. The fact they're blind is just like I'm going to go for it because I really need the help. Great mechanic, I think. That's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a nice little touch.
It's really, really cool. Moving on to the deployments then. Of course, we now have separate maps for Incursion and Strike Force. Now, I will say the Strike Force one and Incursion are pretty much the same. Obviously, Incursion is smaller. Yeah. They all have their own layouts. Some things have changed ever so slightly in places.
The objectives in Incursion they've suited it to be on that smaller board. So sort of things are moved by 1 or 2 inches. It's not a big deal. But
pretty much for Strike Force, it's all more or less the same.
Strike Force deployments are all the same.
All the same, which is great. And then in terms of primary missions, we'll come back to asymmetric in a minute. Primary missions then for Strike Force are all more or less pretty much the same. Yeah. Take and Hold is still here and is the same. Burden of Trust, Linchpin, Scorched Earth, Purge the Foe, Unexploded Ordnance, all the same.
Yep.
There are then some slight tweaks. Terraform now has a maximum of 12 victory points for controlling objectives at the end of the command phase, so that's tweaked slightly. Yep. So again, if you're used to playing these missions, double check them.
Yeah.
We then have the ritual no longer removes all but the center objectives. So again, reread that. Yeah. And in supply drop, the alpha and omega objectives cannot be the center objective, which makes that a little bit different. And there's also hidden supplies has changed entirely. So make sure you're rereading those.
Yes.
Then in terms of secondary missions, all pretty much the same. There's tweaks here and there, but there's 2 new secondary missions.
Indeed.
Which is very exciting. The return of a fan favourite, Tempting Target.
Yay!
I love this secondary mission.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. It reminds me back of when we had Tempest of War and you had the control objective number 3.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to sort of make you have to change your battle plan.
Yes.
I love that inclusion. And then we also have Display of Might, which is a new one where if you have more units in No Man's Land than your opponent, you can score 4 victory points.
Yes.
So that's really quite cool as well. Now, I will say there have been tweaks and changes to a lot of the secondaries, kind of tidying them up in places.
Yeah, like Mark for Death.
Mark for Death is a big change. Like you still pick 3, but then also you can pick a gamma objective yourself, so you can score a smaller amount of victory points.
Yeah, so you can get 5 or 2 victory points now, which is cool.
So that's really cool. Yeah. Most of that is all as we expected. It's tweaks, it's changes, it's tying up the sort of loose ends, tightening things.
Cull the Horde, quite different as well.
Stuff that kind of never really worked before has been tweaked. But then, in addition to all of that stuff that they normally do, they then have added twists and asymmetric missions.
Yeah, this is what's really different.
Today's video is brought to you thanks to the support from our on-demand members. It's due to their amazing support that we're able to produce shows just like this one. As well as supporting the channel, our members get access to at least 2 additional battle reports every week, as well as full codex reviews, painting tutorials, our weekly on-demand exclusive talk show, all of our competitive 40k league games, and so much more. And we add to our library of content every single week. You can join our on-demand community today by downloading our app or heading to the website. And right now we have an introductory offer for new customers, so there's never been a better time to join on demand. Thanks for watching. Let's get back to the show.
I think let's start with the twist because they affect both things, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of the meat and potatoes of it's quite a divisive topic, the twists, because we've played with one.
We played with one.
And we both said it was like playing a totally different edition of Warhammer.
Yeah. We've done one. Which was the one that we did?
We did Bloodlust.
Bloodlust.
Now, to give you some context, I'm just going to read what Bloodlust does.
Sure.
So this would be, you have your primary mission.
I think we should go over all of these.
I think we should as well. But I just, to tee people up to strap in for what to expect.
Okay.
So imagine this, you pick your deployment. Great, it's Hammer and Anvil or something normal, or a new asymmetric one. You've got, what's the mission? Burden of Trust. Cool, get that. Oh, what twist have we drawn? Bloodlust. A unit is eligible to declare a charge if it was in 18 of one or more enemy units instead of within 12. Well, that's interesting. How are they going to make an 18-inch charge?
Yeah, exactly. On 2d6, you can't. It's not possible.
Well, Lawrence, you've fallen to some bloodlust.
Yes.
Each time you make a charge roll 3d6.
Okay. But that's just for the first turn, or?
No, it's just each time.
Huh?
Each time. There's nothing else on the card.
So there was a couple of things. a couple of things that happened during our game.
Yep.
So we played a combat army each.
Yeah.
We were doing demons
Yes.
versus blood
Blood
angels.
angels.
And in that instance, it was fantastic because we both want to get in combat. We got there quicker. We got there over farther distances, and it worked brilliantly.
Yeah.
We did think, what if one of us was using a shooting army like Tau against this? That would be a massive advantage for the combat army, which is something to consider. The other thing that happened during the game is that deep strikes happened, and you can do a deep strike charge with 3d6 instead of 2d6.
And the average on 3d6 is like 11.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So there were a tremendous amount of charges happening across that game.
At the end of turn 2, every unit was in combat with another unit.
Yeah, and in that game, it was great.
It was great fun.
Because we both benefited from that.
Yes.
However, where it's going to fall down is if that easily gives one army over another a tremendous advantage.
Well, Tau's obviously the great example because Tau traditionally don't really have any melee units outside of Kroot, unless they're doing like a Kroot spam army. And if they have if it's Tau versus World Eaters, the World Eaters will suddenly have a very big advantage, which is pretty huge.
Yeah.
I don't know at the time of filming this how you balance that in a situation where you are drawing this card randomly.
Yes.
Now,
Which is what you're instructed to do in the mission pack.
That's the kicker.
Having said that, I would also argue that if you're in a situation with your buddy where you're going to do that and you decide to draw randomly, you might be missing the point. I would argue that you take the cards out which would ruin the game from the get-go, or ideally maybe pick an interesting twist which will be interesting for both of you.
Yeah.
That's probably how I would do it in that scenario.
Would you say there are any twists that are army, playstyle agnostic? Could it be a situation where there are all of these twists for people to use in a normal game of 40k? If it's a proper match play competitive situation, are there some that would work which aren't going to tip it too far?
Well, do you want to talk about the what they might do with the tournament pack then? Before we go over these, or do you want to go over them first?
I think we'll go. I've split them into two piles here,
Okay.
because there's not all of them are as dramatic as Bloodlust.
No.
For example, adapt or dies back.
Yes.
Which is what was a mission rule before, so you can sort of change out your secondaries.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't mind drawing that randomly. Changes the game up slightly.
Yeah.
You've also got rapid escalation.
Is extremely powerful depending on what army it is. Make no mistake, rapid escalation could be a rapid escalation in the right circumstance.
But with this one, at least it seems you can imagine that, because we had similar before in Pariah Nexus.
But wasn't it just like Battle Line or something?
Yeah,
it was
quite possibly, yes.
It wasn't as impactful as that.
If you're running gun line, that's not good for you.
No.
No.
Although, hilariously though, sometimes if it's a really powerful shooting unit that can suddenly
you
see
can bring it
around
forward,
I suppose so.
walls as
You
well.
could
It can go either way, mate. Yeah.
You could pop a Baneblade.
Tell me some more twists. Tell me some more twists.
We have the Martial Pride. Advancing does not make battle line units ineligible to start an action, excluding vehicle units.
Yeah.
And starting an action does not make a battle line unit ineligible to shoot, excluding vehicle units. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet,
Not ruining anything. Yeah.
Then then it sort of all gets a bit more interesting. Oh, there's one more. There's one more that's sort of Lords of War. To the end of the battle, you add 3 to the attacks characteristics of weapons equipped by Warlord models.
I love that.
That's
Cool.
quite cool.
That's quite cool.
Yes.
Cool. Lords of War.
Bring Warlord relevance back,
Yeah.
please. And Sergeants.
Sadly though, but I mean, look, this is another weird example, right? Say you draw this twist, you're a Knights player. Your Warlord can't use it because it says excluding vehicles.
Yeah.
So you suddenly draw a twist and your army is not eligible to even use the twist.
I suppose 3
got these
additional
weird-
attacks on a massive...
No, I get
weapon
it, but my point is that then it's not doing anything.
But then you could also draw point blank.
Yes.
Which is in my second half,
Yes.
which is ranged weapons, excluding blast weapons, all just have the pistol ability.
No. on everything.
Just ranged weapons.
Yeah.
Excluding blast. Just have pistol.
Okay.
There's no excluding
Take a las
vehicles
cannon
there.
to the face.
Yes. Firing point blank, baby.
Wow.
You then also have bloodlust, as we mentioned earlier. You've also got night fighting.
Oh, this is spicy.
Each unit can only be the target of a ranged attack if the attacking model is within 18.
But that's surely only for turn 1, right?
Designers note. This is a great twist for players that do not yet have a battlefield's worth of terrain. Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah.
okay.
Because I can't shoot you. That's within 18.
Okay.
Okay. A strange one.
Face beard.
Well, I'm running my. What are you running? Are you running something slow that can't move very quickly? Well, I'm running my company of hunters as Dark Angels, where it's a good job I've drawn high octane, which means each time in advance, I don't make an advance roll, just move 6 in addition. And then also, if you are a combat army or I'm particularly fast, what about Ruinscape, where each time a unit makes a normal move or advance move, it can move through terrain features.
Everything.
And it's not locked with height, like 4 inches or lower.
Nope.
It's just you can
Everything moves through terrain.
You can move horizontally through terrain features.
Correct.
So
And that's every unit. That's tanks. That's knights. That's whatever it is. Whatever you can think of. That's it. You just move right through it.
Now, this is the fascinating thing. Some of them, I can understand if you drew it randomly.
Yeah.
Much like before when you had, like, I don't know, what was it? Battle line can advance to action. Sure, cool, whatever. Or, you adapt or die. I get it. But some of these...
This is like a weird version. It's like almost like open war has kind of half made a return into this.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I actually really like it.
I love them.
It's fun. It's fun.
I think it's really fun.
Yep.
But you will need to sort of, you and your opponent will need to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And, make sure you've got a card which is going to be really cool for the game.
Yeah.
And that serves, sort of both of you, or is actually sort of a disadvantage to both of you. So you may have some sort of weird thing going on. But there are 2 schools of thought here for the tournament pack. One, they do allow twists, but they restrict what cards are used.
Yes.
And then they start assigning the missions where this mission always has this twist, or this mission always has this twist. At which point I'd be a bit like, well, that's just kind of,
what's the point?
Well, what's the point? Yeah, just use them or don't. Or what they could do, I don't think they're going to do this, by the way. They could just let the twists be in there.
Now,
there is a third school of thought that I had.
Okay, go on.
They might allow a player each to choose a twist. So you have 2 twists.
To
so you,
choose a twist.
interesting.
Yeah, so you could choose one that would benefit your army, and then your opponent has the same thing.
Oh, so you could pick another one. So you could
So,
say,
so there's 2 twists.
So your Tau player could choose night fighting.
Sure.
Oh no, but he wouldn't want that. No,
well, they could choose point blank. So
they
they
could
just have
choose
pistol
point
combat.
blank. Yeah, exactly.
And then if you make your 3d6 charge, they just.
And then the Wildies play will choose Bloodlust.
Maybe.
The thing is,
I don't think that. I think it's too powerful.
A bit
9
wacky.
each chart.
the thing is that is confusing. Right. I really don't know how I feel about it, because part of me just wants to just say, just do it.
That's what I'd say. Because
also,
sometimes you just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
Because the meta would just suddenly explode.
Because my least favourite thing sometimes is 40k can often feel quite solved.
Yes.
Because it's like, well, if you do
time.
these things and these things, you'll probably win a game because you have these tech units. Doesn't matter if you're night fighting or you could roll 3d6 charges. It's like.
But the
how do you
problem
balance that?
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, I mean, as much as the devil in me would like to see it happen, just to see what the tournament scene, how the meta reacts, But the problem is that after a couple of months, people will solve it, and what you'll see, I think, again, just opinion, is you'll probably start seeing a lot of armies suddenly not being used. Because they're not going to be valid just in case someone draws Bloodlust or Night Fight or something.
I know exactly.
You will get some really weird, new, interesting armies, and armies arguably that need to be more flexible than ever. But I think ultimately it would narrow the meta down it will not be as fun.
Because
I don't think so.
Because also, the thing that I keep coming back to is it literally says on night fighting, this is a great twist for players who do not yet have a battlefield's worth of terrain.
Yeah.
Now that is a designer's note that's printed on the card, which makes me think, well, if it is a tournament pack, in theory, every board should have enough terrain.
Right.
So which makes me think they have thought about the deployment, quote unquote, and how these are going to be used.
Yeah.
And therefore, they are suggesting that these need to be taken with a pinch of salt. That said, my other thing I do think is that all the craziest ones all seem to help combat armies more than anything else.
Yes.
And we also do kind of know in 10th edition, combat armies are kind of bottom of the pile at the moment, excluding maybe Blood Angels because they are very quick. But if you're going pure combat as an army, generally speaking, you're at a bit of a disadvantage.
Right.
Because shooting seems to be very strong in 10th edition. So maybe they are thinking like, well, instead of redesigning and giving all combat armies at AP4, do they just go like, yeah, you can... I really don't know.
I don't know. Like maybe, I always felt like combat armies do well, and like the best players often are very good at moving with combat armies, but I don't know what the cutting edge meta is right now because I haven't been to any GT recently.
Because 120 Orc boys with 3d6 charges.
Yeah, but I don't see how that is. I don't see how that will work.
Yeah.
I don't think these are going to be in the.
They can't be
in the pack.
I don't think they will be in the tournament pack. I think that you combine the twists with these new asymmetric missions, and you can have a lot of fun. But even then, I would say you might be better off picking a twist or taking a couple of twists out and randomly. I can just picture some games like poor guys come with this really fun orc army, and it could just go wrong. It could go really wrong, guys.
Or maybe this is like all designed to make people take more like balanced armies, so it's not all combat and all shooting. You need like an all-comers list now.
There may be something which is like. This may be so beyond me, ahead of I might not be able to see the matrix here,
Yes.
That, they see something I don't. And then they release it in the tournament pack.
Yeah,
and
it's like, whoa!
I'm imagining someone at Games Workshop just hovering over a red button to deploy the article on Warcom to say these are going to be in the tournament pack. Boop!
Yeah, I don't know what would happen.
Because when we played our game,
it's brilliant fun.
I spent a CP on Aggressive Onslaught as a Blood Angels player, which meant I could advance and charge.
Yeah.
So I could advance and charge, and then have a 3d6 charge. I covered nearly 30 inches of the board in one fell swoop.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, turn one charges become, pretty realistic.
Absolutely turbo.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that a problem? Is that a problem?
This is the thing.
The problem.
Now, what I would say though is I think you hit the nail on the head. Is these combined with the asymmetric deployments and asymmetric missions, I think is something that I have been crying out for probably the last 2 editions, really, which is if you like the idea of a narratively led mission that has a bit more structure to it rather than there's a completely symmetric thing and we all stand in circles and score points, they've kind of created like quick fire narrative mode.
Yes.
You don't have to buy into a crusade. You don't have to do a whole campaign. You and some buddies can just shuffle these together, draw 3 cards, and you've got an immediate narrative. And I think for those that are time poor but want to have that spicing things up, this is phenomenally good.
Or just someone that's been playing Prior Nexus for a year.
Exactly, right? Yeah. You can still, and the beautiful thing about it is they've been like, this is a different game mode, like they often do a Crusade. This is all part of match play. Yeah. These are all ways to play match play. And I think that's quite important.
Do you know what? I had a funny thought.
A funny thought?
Yeah, I had a funny thought. Funny haha. No, probably not. Here's the thing. I'd like to share it with you guys out there. We were talking in a previous episode how, Crusade felt very heavyweight, but it's really awesome, but you just need the right group who are willing to put the admin in and play the sequential games, all that sort of jazz. When you look at the asymmetric missions, which we will go over, we're going to go over all of those by themselves, and I read the cards, they don't actually read, I mean, there are some different things in there, but they don't necessarily read much differently from your normal primary mission cards. Because I was just looking at them now, but something felt much more narrative about them. I was like, but the cards are just, Score this point on there, score this point on there, you know, pretty formulaic and therefore quite sterile. But there's something about the deployments.
Yes.
There's something about the deployments which immediately immerses me in a narrative, because the armies are not set up in this weirdly formulaic way. The armies are set up in like a last stand scenario, and it looks like a last stand scenario. It's like Hero Hammer, right?
Yes.
The breakout one, the defensive line with the attackers coming in the corner. Just the deployment alone suddenly immersed me. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, there's not really any narrative written. It's only the title.
And that's the clever thing.
I'm on board.
That's the thing. What I like about it is sometimes with the narrative missions, they're very clever. Like there's one, I think, from a couple of editions ago where both of your warlords stand in the middle and they both get 24 wounds and you fight for the whole game. And it's really cool, but there is like 2 pages of rules to go along with that. This is like condensing all of that experience into a really accessible...
Yes.
Because you're right, the missions do read very straightforwardly.
Yeah.
But, for example, one of the first ones is Hold Out.
Yes.
The player whose turn it is scores 5 victory points for each objective marker they control.
Yeah, that doesn't sound particularly narrative to me.
But if you look at Last Stand...
Yeah.
There's 1 objective marker in the attacker's deployment zone, which is like the corners of the board.
Yeah.
There's 2 in a big circle in the middle,
Yes.
and then 1 in no man's land.
Yeah.
And that is like...
Now I'm going to have to hold out.
Yeah, now the defenders could try and extend their holdout to try and capture more victory points. But then if they overextend, you're going to break through their lines and take their home objective.
Right.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
We played Pincer Attack.
Right.
Now, that is effectively... hopefully a pop-up will come up for the deployment because it's impossible to explain with just words. It's essentially a big triangle, like an arrow, and then 2 cubes.
Yeah.
And the attacker's coming in the corners and you have a big wedge as the defender. Yeah. We were playing demons. Tell you what, that made Shadow of Chaos all kinds of weird. And it felt, the game had such a weird flow to it because we were having to move around and contemplate really different things.
And with that one specifically, it was quite interesting because there were 2 objectives in my deployment.
Yeah.
1 in your deployment, 2 in no man's land.
Yes.
So when I was thinking about navigating around the board to do certain things, I was in a completely different game because it's not like, oh, there's 1 there, and there in a geometric shape. Like they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I'm thinking about like holding an objective in your deployment zone, it's like, well, there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
This is wild. And also I deploy almost halfway up the board.
Yeah.
It was so different.
And like 3 of a possible 5 objectives are within 12 inches of each other.
Yeah.
They're all really close.
Yeah.
So you as a defender can kind of swarm that bit and like tilt your opponent.
Yeah.
And we also played Denied Resources.
Right.
Which is a whole new mission. Effectively the way it works is that the defender scores, has to deny objectives. So you basically do an action and the objective marker's gone forever.
Yeah.
You get 7 victory points if it's in your deployment zone, 10 in no man's land, and 16 if it's in your opponent's deployment zone. But it's denied at the end of your opponent's next turn.
Right.
So you have to kind of set up to try and boot them off the board.
Yeah.
But then we basically had a whole game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Like you kept trying to get in my deployment zone, I'd chase you out, and then you'd come back around again.
Your sanguinary guards did a lot on their
They were
pedometer.
just zooming around the board,
Yeah.
trying to deal with these like whack-a-mole situations. But then as the attacker, you score victory points kind of as normal because you just hold it in your command phase.
Yeah.
So we were like, this is like playing a whole different game.
Yeah.
It's so good. You've got siphoned power. First line, the defender starts with 50 victory points.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
As the attacker, you just steal their victory points, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's like they're literally holding on to their resources
Yeah.
and you're just pinching them away from you.
Yeah.
It's just, I think, it's very, very clever.
Yeah.
And they tie up with these deployments that have so much flavour to them, like you say, that deliver you a kind of, quote unquote, I don't want to say narrative, but just a different experience.
Well, they do.
Because they're asymmetric.
Yeah. Yeah. It just sort of works.
It just works. And like having played a couple of them now, like they have a different flow to the game.
Right.
Which if you've played like, you might have done a tournament over the weekend and then a couple of weeks later you're playing at your local gaming store and you're like, do you know what, I played 5 back-to-back symmetric missions. Can we just kind of beer and pretzels this and have a bit more of a kooky one?
Yeah.
That's when, hey, not only is it a last stand, it's night fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
Not only is it like, we've made this really cool like demon board, let's do Ruinscape, all the terrains floating around. I think what I love about this is it's like, my first narrative kind of thing. You can just pick a deployment, pick a thing, pick a twist. You've got an immediate narrative setup without it being overly complicated, but it all has all the structure and kind of robustness of match play.
Yeah.
I wonder as well if it was intentional that they didn't really change the secondaries too much, because I think with the addition of the asymmetric missions plus the asymmetric deployments, I think if it was also all new secondaries, it'd be like,
I agree.
So I think for anyone that's been playing 10th, it's not going to be a complete just relearn everything. It's here's lots of familiarities.
Yes.
The secondaries especially, because you have to do them all the time. But also we've made you these missions and deployment that just make the game feel completely fresh.
I also find we've done a lot of Crusade and narrative stuff. I think that helps it balance so much easier. Because often when they do like a big last stand thing, it's like you have to, your opponent scores like 25 victory points for each objective they deny. By about turn 3, the game's kind of over because inevitably it's gone one way. But if you also have secondaries as well, that balancing of the scales continues throughout the whole game pretty much. It doesn't feel like, we've kind of, the route to victory is really obvious now. Like we ended it basically on turn 5, right to the wire. And I think we only had 25 victory points each. It was because of the way we'd had to really be quite cagey about it, it really forced you into awkward scenarios that with Bloodlust, you were sending stuff across the board and be like, no, I actually need to come back.
We didn't get to draw any challenger cards because it was that close.
It was so close. So for me, that's such an exciting new thing to add in. I think it's just what happens with twists in terms of the normal.
Find out soon.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. You might know today.
Yeah, you might well know. But I think it's great. I think it's super exciting. It's probably one of my favorite shake-ups yet for these mission packs.
So what do you think it means then for, I mean, we've covered them now for the most part. Should we finish on what do we think this means? What does this mean?
What does it all mean?
Well, the thing is, it's the 2025 to 26 mission deck.
This is very true.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, that means that this will last until next year. We're in 2025, you see.
Oh, right.
So, if this is around until next year, what do we think is going to happen next year?
See. Are you alluding to a certain numerical change?
All I'm saying is that next year, Leviathan would have been out for 3 years.
This is true.
I know I don't know anything for a fact. I'm just saying the fact is it would have been out for 3 years. We're either going to see a new edition because they seem to be pumping these codexes out real quick.
It has sped up quite drastically.
We might not, by the way, as well. It's just pure hearsay. We either see a new edition and then there'll be a new deck in that edition, I assume, or we will see another deck. But is this a sign of, are these asymmetric things, is this like a fourth way to play? Is this going to be a new way to play? Is this a sign of what might be to come in a new edition?
So I think after the 25 to 26 mission deck, there'll be a 26 to 27 mission deck. And I think
that's a bold statement.
And I think that will arrive at the same time as the new edition. I think it will launch with another mission deck. Because I very much doubt it's going to be a massive redoing of the edition, because they spent so much time tweaking, balancing, getting all these codexes out. I think there'll be some changes made.
So and secondaries will stay the same largely?
I think they'll probably refresh the mission deck approach in terms of maybe they'll keep the asymmetric thing. Maybe that's their chance to then change the secondary deck.
Right.
But I can see this being constant and launching with a new edition for the next year.
Okay.
Now, this is less of a prediction. This is what I would like to happen.
Okay.
Because do you know what I think is brilliant about this? Is this is the most excited I've been about a mission pack, I think, since they started doing these mission packs. I also got super excited about the thing of whole Grotmus. 10th, the core stuff of sustained, devastating wounds, everyone knows that now. It's quite structured, it's quite straightforward. What I would like is that the new mission pack launches with Codex Space Marines 2.
Ooh.
You don't need a new edition. I don't need that in my life. I don't need to change everything all over again and we're all back to square one and everyone's got to relearn everything. I'm like, brand new missions, brand new secondaries, Space Marines, new Codex. So yeah, they're all changing. And then for GW that love to print their books and make their money, they can start doing all the codexes again, and we know that happens
Would
in
you
a cycle.
not want a reprint of the rule book that incorporates all of the 21 pages of FAQs and erratas?
Probably what I'd like is a launch box like they do, because everyone loves that bit. Everyone loves the Leviathan box and the Indomitus box. I want a new box. I want my white scars. I want my bike captains and things. But equally, if that just came with like, here's like almost 10.5, here's the new core rules with all of the erratas and everything in there, that crisps it all up. You get your mission pack in there, and you get that's it, that's the launch box. It's like, cool, here you go. And then at some point, the new goodies and baddies of that box are going to get the codexes. Right. And then the cycle can continue without effectively all the work they've done balancing the game kind of inputting in the bin, and then having to do the whole process again.
If there is a new edition, and if that new edition is a complete rewrite, then yes, it will be kind of just throwing away all of the work that they've put in.
Because for me,
I find that hard to believe that they would do that. But I mean, go on.
10th edition is an enormous playtest.
Yeah.
It's a rule book with pages and pages and pages of FAQs and updates. It's just it's all gonna get put in one book. They might do a few changes, but then it will be like, here's a new launch. Here's
granularity back, Beard.
Huh?
I want them to bring the I want
that's the
pay
sort of
for a
thing.
plasma pistol.
That's the sort of thing they could add in.
They could add
to
in.
freshen
That's
things
quite
up.
easy.
Yeah, I would love to see that come back.
I want to do my list crafting again. Remember those days?
I used to love writing lists.
Remember that? Do you remember that?
The thing is,
I know you do.
You could. We wouldn't even need a new book though.
No, you just need a new.
How you
every
build
factions. I mean, you may as well. And before anyone says, "Oh, well, you can't do that because all of the points are in the book," well,
points aren't in the book, are they? Yeah.
That would be the beauty though of an all digital rule set, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You can make your list. You've got access to all of the rules with your Warhammer Plus subscription, whatever it is.
You
can make your list. All of the rules are updated all the time. Everything's relevant all of the time. Everything
they
you
shouldn't
see.
even print the points in the book.
There's no points in the core rule book, is there?
No.
So you just print a new MFM when you launch the Space Marine 2 codex.
Or just put a big QR code in the back. Here's where of the codex. Here's where you get your points.
Because
here's where you sign up for your list builder.
I think I mentioned it earlier, but you said in the game we played, you were like, this is like playing a whole new edition of 40k.
Yeah,
and it was.
great.
It felt that fresh. It felt so different. Like the way of playing the game felt totally different. I'm like, if they do that every 6 months, you kind of don't need to do this big.
No, mission packs and like I said before, like they could do a narrative mission pack, which is a deck. So you're not like going through a crusade book. It's a deck, and you've like the deployments alone, as I said, I'm already immersed.
It's so good.
So very interesting.
Very interesting.
Cool. I look forward to the Grey Knights versus Chaos Demons.
You're convinced. Don't play with my heart like that.
I tell you what though, if you weren't doing a new edition and it didn't have to have the rulebook in there, you could put whatever you want in the box. Put whatever you want in the box.
That's true.
It's very exciting, but this mission pack is fantastic. I'm very excited. Love to hear what you guys think as well. Did you want more changes to the regular sort of missions? Did you actually kind of want more of the asymmetric stuff filtered in to the regular Strike Force missions? Or are you ecstatic that you have just 2 ways to play? And it's great, and you can enjoy that how you want to. We're very excited. We're going to play lots and lots and lots of games with this new mission pack, so we'll be very well acquainted with it, including one that is out for you guys on YouTube right now and for you guys on demand on Tuesday. So all very, very exciting. Until next time, I have been James Jordan, aka The Bard. Today I have been joined by Mr. Lawrence Baker.
Farewell.
And of course, Joe Pointing, Chaos Lord Beard. That was exciting. We have been Tabletop Tactics. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.